She thought an abortion would absolve her. I slowly lit my cigar. In the smoke, an old photo of her wearing Daniel Clark's ring flickered. The real drama began when she thought she could use a child to bind me. As for this reconciliation play acting now, the prey just stumbled into the trap, and already thinks the hunter will close the net. Today was my 10th wedding anniversary with my wife. I finished work early and returned home, planning a quiet surprise for my wife, Grace Taylor. I was determined to make this anniversary special. As work had gotten in the way of the previous ones, I meticulously prepared a candlelight dinner, the fragrant scent of roses filling the dining room. Grace Taylor returned from outside, a look of profound pleasure on her face. I asked her to change, and she went into the bedroom. Suddenly, my phone chimed. A text message popped up. "I am waiting for you." I glanced at the contact name. It was Daniel. Following that were 3 photos. The first showed a slender man, exquisitely handsome, gazing intently at a wine glass in his hand. The second was a shot of him and my wife from behind. The background looked familiar. My wife and I had taken photos there too. The third was a candid shot of him putting a ring on my wife's finger, the ring sparkling on her ring finger. I froze. I had seen the man in the photos before. He was my wife Grace Taylor's first love, Daniel Clark, the person who had accompanied her and been a part of her youth. "My husband, what are you looking at?" Grace Taylor asked, approaching with the cake. I quickly turned off my phone, forcing a smile. "Nothing, just looking at some company documents. You should rest. When it's time to rest, don't overwork yourself," Grace Taylor said after sitting across from me. Most of the time, she would care for me like that. We always treated each other with mutual respect. After we married, we rarely argued. I even told my friends how strong our relationship was. "I know, I am not looking anymore. I'll spend time with you today," I said, picking up my phone, ready to take a series of photos of her as usual. She loved to post on social media. Just as I opened the camera, she interrupted me. "I am not looking my best today. My eyes seem to be irritated, a little swollen. Let's take them another time." Grace Taylor didn't wait for me to respond. She cut the cake directly, even skipping the candle lighting. Was she really that eager to see him? Grace Taylor's eyes were swollen from a peach allergy. I could smell the faint scent of peaches on her, even though she had tried to mask it with heavy perfume. "All right," I replied. She ate a couple of bites of cake distractedly. "My wife, is your studio very busy?" I offered her an excuse. "Oh, yes, the studio has been very busy lately. There's a lot going on," she said quickly, regaining her composure. "My wife, if it's urgent, you should go. We can always have this meal another time," I said, putting down my knife and fork, and pushing the cut steak towards her. She gave a stiff smile before saying, "My husband, thank you. I still have time to share a proper meal with you." After dinner, she played a game with me for a little while before rushing out the door. "My wife, are you coming back tonight?" I asked, watching her slender back. She turned back and hugged me, neither saying she would return, nor that she wouldn't. Instead, she just said, "I'll try my best." It wasn't until I could no longer hear her car starting in the driveway that I finally regained my composure. My throbbing temples reminded me that no matter how hard it was to believe, the truth was right before my eyes. My wife was cheating on me. After much internal struggle, I decided to go to the Riverfront Gallery myself to find out what was happening inside the Riverfront Gallery. Grace Taylor was chatting and laughing easily with a man. Seeing his face, my heart skipped a beat. It was Daniel Clark. So she could smile that happily, just not in front of me. "My husband, what are you doing here?" Grace Taylor asked, visibly flustered. When she saw me, though she quickly masked it, she smiled and introduced, "This is Daniel Clark, an alumnus from Riverside Art Institute. He just returned from abroad. He's holding a solo exhibition at our Riverfront Gallery." Daniel Clark politely shook my hand. His long fingers were distinct at the knuckles. He clearly looked like an artist who often held a brush. I forced a smile, my gaze fixed intently on his and Grace Taylor's interactions. They were talking and laughing, exchanging glances that spoke volumes after years of marriage. I knew Grace Taylor's expressions when she was deeply moved all too well. At that moment, the happiness in her eyes and across her face was unmistakable. My heart clenched painfully. It turned out, in front of this man, I was completely superfluous. "My wife, remember we have to visit Mom this afternoon. Don't forget the time." Leaving that remark, I walked away without looking back. Behind me, I heard Grace Taylor's displeased voice. "What's wrong with him? Why is he so unhappy today?" I let out a cold laugh. Did I even have a place in your heart anymore? Back at the company, I sulked alone in my office. A knock sounded. I thought it was Grace Taylor following me, but instead, it was my assistant, Sophia White, who entered. Mr. Taylor, back. The board has been pushing for the quarterly report, and I really can't handle it. She looked troubled. I forced myself to rally, comforting her. It's all right, you can go, I'll take care of it. Sophia White looked relieved. As she left, she glanced back at me, as if she had something more to say. Sophia White, is there anything else? Mr. Taylor, everyone in the company can see you haven't been yourself lately. Is something wrong between you and your wife? She asked cautiously. I gave a bitter smile. What conflict? It was clearly betrayal. However, I didn't want to keep family matters private. It's nothing major, just some inevitable friction between a husband and wife. Sophia White nodded, seemingly understanding. If you need any help, please tell me anytime. No matter what it is, I'll be on your side. Her words touched me. As my assistant, she had always been dedicated and tireless, giving her all for the company, and now, in my most difficult time, she remained loyal. Thank you, Sophia White. You can go back to your work now. I'll handle things at home. Watching Sophia White leave, I secretly made up my mind. No matter what, I had to save this marriage. Even if the betrayal was irreversible, I still needed to find closure for both of us. In the following days, I began discreetly investigating Daniel Clark. It turned out he wasn't just Grace Taylor's classmate, but also her first love. Years ago, he had left without a word to study abroad, breaking Grace Taylor's heart. I was merely her fallback, a salve to heal her wounds. Now that the wound had healed, she couldn't wait to find her antidote. I had always been faithful to Grace Taylor. I recalled the time I had pursued Grace Taylor. Back then, I would leave early and come home late every day, always detouring to the riverfront gallery after work to pick her up. Even if she always said she had to work late, I would wait patiently outside the riverfront gallery. Rain or shine, occasionally, she would be moved by my sincerity, reluctantly getting into the car, and we'd drive in silence. I didn't lose heart, finding various ways to please her. I'd buy her favorite snacks, accompany her shopping, and even humble myself to act like Daniel Clark, showing her warm concern and affection. Yet, Grace Taylor always remained indifferent, giving me the cold shoulder. I thought her personality was just naturally reserved. I even thought Daniel Clark had hurt her so deeply that it was understandable she couldn't move on immediately. But now, it seemed she was passionate, just not with me. I often made excuses for Grace Taylor's indifference, not for anyone else, but for myself. However, thinking of those 3 photos, I no longer wanted to find excuses. That day, I specifically rushed to pick her up and take her home. But I saw her, leaning drunkenly in Daniel Clark's arms. As he gently helped her into a car, she was completely nestled in his embrace, a blissful smile on her face. Even though I knew this would be the outcome, my heart still twisted with pain. I left without looking back. She didn't need me. I don't know how much time passed. I remember drinking a lot, with empty bottles scattered everywhere. Grace Taylor suddenly returned. Surprisingly, she wasn't angry when she saw the mess. Even though she hated a cluttered living room, she came over, took the bottle from my hand, and without a word, pulled me up. My wife. Are you still my wife? I couldn't help but ask her. Drunk, I'll help you to the bedroom, Grace Taylor said calmly, without any expression on her face. As soon as we entered the bedroom, I pushed her against the door and kissed her red lips. She paused for a moment, then quickly responded, but she pushed me away just as quickly. Marcus Taylor, drunk, Grace Taylor said, leading me to the bed to lie down before leaving to get me a glass of water. I wasn't actually drunk. She was very resistant to intimacy with me, probably because Daniel Clark was back. Late that night, I received a call from my mom. Marcus Taylor, when will you bring Gracie over? Mom wants to see you both. My mother's weak voice on the other end of the line tore at my heart. Ever since father passed away, mother's health hadn't been good. I often urged her to move in with us, but she stubbornly refused, saying she didn't want to interfere with our life as a couple. Now she was sick, and still worrying about Grace Taylor and me. I rushed to the hospital that night, only to be told it was too late. Mother had late-stage stomach cancer. She didn't have much time left. I stood stunned outside the hospital room, unable to speak for a long time. When I entered the hospital room, mother was on an IV drip. Seeing me, she tremblingly reached out her hand. Marcus, here, where's Gracie? My eyes read. I held Mother's hand. She has something to do. She's very busy. Before, I could easily come up with excuses for Grace Taylor. Now, I couldn't. Looking at my Mons now skeletal hand, my heart felt as if it would shatter at a touch. Mom, I am sorry. I didn't take good care of you. Silly child. Don't apologize to Mom, Mother said, patting the back of my hand. You have your career. Mom didn't want to hold you back. Seeing you achieve so much over the years, Mom is content. Marcus, have you and Gracie had a fight? Mom knows there's bound to be friction between a husband and wife, but no matter how big the conflict, the family should come first. If you two are well, they'll be at peace. Listening to Mother's advice, my nose stung with emotion. How could I possibly hide my private family matters from Mother? But how could I bear to let her worry about us, especially when her health was so poor? Mom, please don't worry. Gracie and I are doing well. Her riverfront gallery has been very busy lately. Once things calm down, we'll come see you together. For now, just focus on recovering. I picked up an orange and began peeling it, trying to hide my unease. Mother looked half convinced as she patted my shoulder. When are you and Gracie planning to have a child? At that, the orange I was peeling, with only one segment left, suddenly slipped from my hand. I tried to catch it, but it was too late, and it fell to the ground. Mom, I'll peel another one for you. Did something happen between you and Gracie? My Mons sickly face showed a look of near certainty. No, we're fine. Please don't overthink it. I quickly covered up. After I finished peeling another orange, my mom finally said, have a child. Perhaps a child can solve your problems. A child. Could it really solve our problems? I returned home, thinking about what my mom had said. Grace Taylor probably wouldn't want to have my child. She'd rather have Daniel Clark's. Looking at the photo album displayed in the living room, Grace Taylor's face was gentle, and she was smiling softly. Back then, I was completely captivated by Grace Taylor. My throat felt dry and scratchy. I wanted a cigarette. A sudden craving for a cigarette came over me. Even though I had quit long ago, I opened the cigarette pack, took out a cigarette, and as I fumbled for my lighter, I froze. I had quit smoking a long time ago. Grace Taylor said she didn't like the smell of cigarettes on me. She disliked it, so I quit. With a click, the lighter's flame flickered suddenly, much like how I used to be. I lit the cigarette. A familiar yet strange taste filled my mouth, making me choke and cough, my face turning bright red. An hour later, I drove away from home, driving towards Daniel Clark's private residence. My heart was tormented. I had looked up Daniel Clark's address many times. I knew it by heart. The car soon reached its destination. I turned off the engine, held my breath, and stared at the brightly lit villa. I opened the program backend that I had previously installed on Grace Taylor's phone. From the listening device, vague, suggestive sounds drifted. My heart sank into an icy abyss with each passing moment. Daniel, I miss you so much. It was Grace Taylor's voice, sending shivers down my spine. I had kissed her countless times, caressed her, but I never imagined that one day, she would say such words to another man. Daniel Clark whispered breathlessly, Gracie, I miss you too. I am sorry. It's my fault I couldn't come back sooner. Foolish boy, I've waited 10 years for you. A little longer won't matter. Grace Taylor giggled. Gracie, elate, you should be punished. The woman let out a soft laugh. I am at your mercy. Gracie is so obedient. So, help me take this off. Gracie, was Marcus Taylor ever this bad to you? No sooner had he spoken than I heard Grace Taylor's soft cry. Don't bite. Grace Taylor gasped softly. Daniel Clark, a breathless voice, tinged with anger, said, are you jealous? Bringing him up in front of me. Right, I was being petty. Gracie, come here. Daniel Clark said gently, why do you have to bring him up? I am still Mrs. Taylor. Daniel Clark, we've wronged him. Grace Taylor's faint voice drifted over, but her words quickly dissolved into the fragmented intimacy. Furious, I lit a cigarette and gazed out the car window. After one cigarette, I took out my phone and dialed. Inside the house, things were reaching a passionate peak. Grace Taylor's voice was like a cat's purr, scratching at my heart. Daniel Clark, do you love me? Daniel Clark didn't speak. He was probably demonstrating his answer with his actions. I numbly pressed my phone, over and over again, listening to the fervent intimacy on the other end, and the phone's ringing tone simultaneously. The phone rang for a few seconds, then showed as powered off. I lit another cigarette, listening to the sounds coming from the phone. Every sound was a slow torture to my heart. The pain was excruciating. Suddenly, my MOMS words echoed in my mind. Marcus, have you and Gracie had a fight? Mom knows there's bound to be friction between a husband and wife, but no matter how big the conflict, the family should come first. If you two are well, I'll be at peace, as long as Mom sees you, and Marcus doing well, shall be at peace. There's nothing else Mom wishes for in this life. She prays every day for you and Marcus to grow old together, and then shall die without regrets. I looked at her smiling eyes, filled with happiness, and the words divorce caught in my throat. It was still summer, but the night wind was as cold as winter snow. The sounds continued. I checked the time, put out my cigarette, and got out of the car. The elevator mirror reflected my ashen face. My footsteps halted at the door. The password was incorrect. My fingerprint didn't match. The marital home, once filled with hopeful anticipation, had ultimately become a love nest for another man. I took out my phone and dialed 911. Officer, there's an intruder in my house. The address is... The police quickly arrived and kicked open the tightly shut door. I followed close behind, my heart filled with anger and humiliation. Looking around, clothes were strewn everywhere. Grace Taylor's silver high heels lay askew in the entryway. Black fishnet stockings were tangled haphazardly on the sofa. A pink bunny ear headband lay innocently in the center of the rug, and torn lingerie was scattered everywhere. Seeing all this, I was almost ready to lose it on the spot. I could imagine how intense the past few hours had been. The bedroom door was violently pushed open. Immediately, I saw Daniel Clark and Grace Taylor embracing, naked, with Grace Taylor still on her knees. Seeing the police and me intrude, Grace Taylor screamed and frantically pulled the covers to conceal herself. How did you get in here? This is illegal intrusion. I am calling the police. Daniel Clark yelled, glaring at me with a fierce look. I sneered, call the police. The police are right in front of you. Daniel Clark was furious, looking as if he wanted to pounce and hit me. How can you be so self-righteous after messing around like this? Grace Taylor grabbed him and looked at me disdainfully. Me, messing around? Ha, didn't you find a psychologist to be your lover outside? What right do you have to accuse me? That's different. I roared, losing my temper. Chloe Adams and I never did anything, and I never wavered in my feelings for you. It's you who betrayed our marriage. Grace Taylor shrugged, uncaring. So what? Daniel Clark is the one I've always loved. Being with you was just an act. Now that he's back, why should I force myself to stay unhappy? Her words were like a heavy blow, leaving me dizzy and disoriented. I stumbled back 2 steps, unable to believe that the woman before me was the wife I had lived with for 10 years. Sir, do you wish to withdraw the complaint or press charges? The police officer couldn't stand it anymore, and stepped forward to ask. I stared intensely at the adulterous couple clinging to each other, and said fiercely, press charges. I want to accuse them of adultery and destroying the marital relationship. I am also filing for divorce. Grace Taylor, that cheating woman, won't get a single penny. How dare you? Grace Taylor leaped up. The house is our joint property. You can't monopolize it. Oh, right, I said, looking around, my gaze falling on a smashed vase that was a priceless antique. I'll have to pay for this vase too, and those picture frames, they'll all be added to your bill. I picked up the fragments of our wedding photo from the floor and contemptuously tossed them into the trash can. What I once cherished as a symbol of our love was now nothing more than a pile of rubbish. Just like this marriage I had treasured so deeply, it was now beyond recognition. I went downstairs without looking back. Behind me, Grace Taylor's heart-wrenching screams and Daniel Clark's curses echoed in the stairwell. I ignored them, feeling nothing but profound exhaustion. Just as I reached downstairs, a figure rushed up and violently grabbed my collar. I looked closer and saw it was Grace Taylor, her clothes disheveled. Marcus Taylor. Do you know what you're doing? She yelled, her face flushed and twisted into a frightening expression. Of course I know, I said, pushing her away coldly and straightening my wrinkled suit. Grace Taylor. Let's get a divorce. Marriage is a 2-person affair, and since you determined to ruin it, I don't need to force myself any longer. You wish. Grace Taylor screamed wildly, blocking my path. Without me, in nothing. Your company wouldn't be where it is today if it weren't for me. Now you want to dump me. No way. I sneered, curling my lips. Don't be so self-important. Without you, I'll still do just fine. Daniel Clark, the man you've longed for, is back. You should be happier than I am right now. My wife." With that, I walked away without looking back. She ran up and grabbed my hand, her expression furious. "Marcus Taylor, do you know what you're doing?" Of course, I knew. I was completely sober. I had never been so clear-headed in my life. The company's IPO was imminent, yet my mind was heavy with worries. Ever since I discovered proof of Grace Taylor's infidelity, I had been distracted all day and couldn't sleep at night. During daytime meetings, I was absent-minded, often lost in thought. That day, the board was holding an important meeting to discuss the IPO details. Robert Davis was speaking eloquently, but I couldn't focus. My mind was filled with images of Grace Taylor and Daniel Clark clinging to each other. "Mr. Taylor, what are your thoughts on this proposal?" Robert Davis suddenly called on me. "What?" "Oh, I looked at everyone blankly, my lips fumbling, unable to find the words. Sophia White quickly stepped in to smooth things over. "Mr. Taylor hasn't been feeling well lately. Perhaps we can discuss this issue privately later." I shot her a grateful glance, nodding quickly to dismiss the meeting. "Mr. Taylor, what on earth is going on?" "You've truly frightened me," Sophia White asked, concerned. After the meeting, I sighed, and after much hesitation, decided to confide everything in her. Sophia White had always been my capable assistant, honest and upright. I trusted she wouldn't leak this. I told Sophia White about Grace Taylor's infidelity. After hearing it, she was too shocked to speak. After a long moment, she murmured, "Mr. Taylor, no wonder you've been so distracted. If it were me, I wouldn't be able to handle such a blow either. Sophia White, I'll have to rely on you to take more responsibility for the company's IPO. I really don't have the mind for these things right now. Don't worry, I'll give my all to the company's affairs. As for you, please take care of yourself," Sophia White advised. "You shouldn't rush things like this. You both need some time to cool down." I nodded gratefully. Sophia White was right. I couldn't let my emotions control me and make impulsive decisions. But, with Grace Taylor and Daniel Clark together, how could I possibly be calm? I suddenly wanted to go see Mom. She was still waiting for Grace Taylor to visit her. As soon as I walked in, I saw her, asking me why Gracie hadn't come. I told her what had happened recently. "I understand," Mother said, looking at me with affection. "Marcus, no matter what happens, Mom will always support you. It's just..." My heart tightened. "Just what?" Mother sighed. "Can you and Gracie really not make it work anymore?" I froze, my lips trembling. After a moment, I lowered my head. "Mom, I tried my best, but feelings can't be forced." Tears welled up in Mother's eyes. "Oh, you young people, why are you so stubborn? Your father and I certainly had our arguments back then, but for the sake of the family, we chose tolerance and forgiveness." I couldn't bear to listen anymore. Bidding Mother a hasty farewell, I left without looking back. It wasn't that I lacked the courage to forgive, it was just that no amount of courage could mend the wounds of betrayal. That night, I had a dream. Furious, I pushed open the bedroom door. Daniel Clark frantically covered himself with a blanket, while Grace Taylor screamed and hid behind him. "You, how could you do this?" Grace Taylor cried, overwhelmed with shame, tears streaming down her face. I sneered, finding it utterly ridiculous. The esteemed daughter-in-law of the Taylor family, acting so shamelessly for a lover. "What? You upset about being caught in the act? Well, go on then. Don't let me, the third wheel, get in your way." I sneered. Daniel Clark furiously pulled on his pants and yelled at me, "Marcus Taylor, get it straight. Grace Taylor doesn't love you anymore. She's my woman now, so stop being so delusional." My blood boiled, and I swung a punch at Daniel Clark's repulsive face. He recoiled in pain, blood gushing from his nose. "Go ahead and kill me. Otherwise, I'll never let Grace Taylor go." I raised my fist, about to strike again, but Grace Taylor stepped in front of him, her hair disheveled, tears streaming down her face. She looked utterly pitiable. "Marcus, I am sorry. I've wronged you." My heart ached. For this woman, I had given everything. In the end, this was the outcome. I gave a self-mocking laugh, shoved Grace Taylor aside, and walked out without looking back. Behind me, Daniel Clark sneered, "Marcus Taylor, don't think you can get rid of Grace Taylor just by divorcing her. She's carrying my child, and she's tied to me for life." My steps froze instantly. "What? Grace Taylor was pregnant. I spun around abruptly, staring intently at Grace Taylor. She hung her head, her face as pale as paper. Suppressing my rage, I said word by word, "So, this is why you want to divorce me. You want to have that man's child." Grace Taylor sobbed uncontrollably. "Marcus, I was wrong, but I can't give up this child." I felt the world spinning around me. I suddenly woke up, startled. Waking up, I looked at the empty bedroom and let out a helpless, bitter laugh. Marcus Taylor, truly a failure. Unexpectedly, the nightmare came true. Grace Taylor was pregnant. I walked out of the company building, exhausted. The recently concluded lengthy meeting had given me a splitting headache. The summer sunlight was blinding. I squinted my eyes and walked towards the underground parking garage. Just then, I saw her. Grace Taylor was standing at the garage entrance, looking somewhat nervous and uneasy. She was wearing a light blue dress, the breeze gently stirring her long hair. Seeing me approach, she forced a faint smile. "Marcus Taylor, I have something to tell you." Her voice was flat. I stopped, a premonition of dread washing over me. "What is it? Has something happened?" Grace Taylor took a deep breath, looking directly into my eyes. "I am pregnant." Her words were like a heavy hammer, instantly shattering my exhaustion. I stood frozen, for a moment unsure how to react. Countless thoughts churned in my mind, and all sorts of future possibilities flashed before my eyes. I stood there stunned, my mind a blank. Grace Taylor's words exploded like thunder in my ears. What does this mean?" I asked with difficulty, my voice hoarse. Grace Taylor took a deep breath, her eyes glistening with tears. "Marcus Taylor, I know I made a huge mistake, but I swear, this child is yours. Daniel Clark and I, that's all in the past." I've completely cut ties with him. I felt a wave of dizziness, and had to brace myself against a nearby car. "How can you be sure the child is mine?" I asked coldly. "I am very sure," Grace Taylor said firmly. "The timing is perfect. And, after that time, I haven't been with anyone else, you know." I closed my eyes, trying to clear my chaotic thoughts. When I opened my eyes again, I saw Grace Taylor looking at me, with pleading eyes. "Marcus Taylor, I know I've failed you, but I truly know I was wrong. Can this child be a chance for us to start over?" Her voice was choked with emotion. Please give me one more chance. Can we start anew?" I sighed deeply, feeling utterly exhausted. "Grace Taylor, how can I trust you? How can I be sure any of this is real?" "I'll do anything to prove it," Grace Taylor said eagerly. "I can show you my phone, my emails, everything. I can even move in with you, so you can monitor me whenever you want. I just want one chance, a chance to make amends for the past." I gazed into Grace Taylor's eyes, searching for any hint of dishonesty, but I only saw sincerity and remorse. "Give me some time," I finally said. "This isn't a decision I can make right away." Grace Taylor nodded, a flicker of hope in her eyes. "I understand. Thank you for considering. I'll wait for you, no matter how long it takes." I turned and walked towards my car, my mind a jumble. As I drove away, I saw Grace Taylor still standing there in my rearview mirror, watching me leave. Life, however, is always full of surprises. Just when I thought everything had settled, fate delivered another heavy blow. I was sitting in my study, organizing the documents needed for the divorce. Every document seemed to remind me that a once beautiful marriage was about to end. My emotions were complicated and hard to decipher. There was a sense of relief, yet an inexplicable feeling of loss. Just then, my phone suddenly rang. Seeing it was Mom's number, I instinctively felt uneasy. Sure enough, the news from the other end of the line instantly threw me into a panic. "Mr. Taylor, hurry to the hospital. Mother, she's suddenly taken a turn for the worse." It was the butler's voice, filled with anxiety and panic. I immediately put down the files and rushed to the hospital. On the way, countless possibilities flashed through my mind, my heart pounding as if it would leap from my chest. When I burst into the hospital room, breathless, the scene before me stunned me completely. Mom lay on the hospital bed, her face pale, connected to various medical equipment, and by the bedside, surprisingly, was Grace Taylor. She was crying profusely, and when she saw me enter, a flicker of panic and guilt crossed her eyes. "What happened?" I asked in a low voice, my gaze shifting between Mom and Grace Taylor. The butler sighed, not speaking, simply looking at Grace Taylor nearby. "Well, I suddenly came to visit Mom today. I told her about our situation, saying I wanted to save our marriage, but as I was talking, Mom it dawned on me. Turning to Grace Taylor, a wave of complicated emotions washed over me. I am sorry, Marcus Taylor. I just wanted to confide in someone. I didn't expect this to happen, Grace Taylor said, choking back sobs, tears streaming down her face. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my emotions. Now wasn't the time to assign blame. Mom's health was what mattered most. What did the doctor say? I asked the butler. They said her old condition flared up, and she needs close observation, the butler said, his voice full of worry. I nodded and walked to the bedside, gently holding Mom's hand. Seeing her pale face, my heart ached. Turning to Grace Taylor, I said softly, you should go back for now. I'll stay here. Grace Taylor hesitated, then finally nodded, and left the hospital room with her head bowed. I sat by the hospital bed, watching the numbers on the medical equipment, my heart a mix of conflicting emotions. Butler, don't let Grace Taylor come tomorrow. Young master, the butler started to speak up for Grace Taylor, but Marcus Taylor cut him off before he could finish. Starting tomorrow, Grace Taylor will no longer be Mrs. Taylor. I am going to divorce her, I said, raising a hand to rub my temples. Grace Taylor never truly had me in her heart. Daniel Clark was her true love. Madam, isn't she pregnant? The butler asked after a moment of hesitation. Does my mom know about this? Young master, mother was already agitated from hearing that news. If you divorce the butler trailed off. It's fine, once mother wakes up, I'll explain it to her myself. Remember, don't let Grace Taylor in. Before I finished speaking, my phone vibrated. I instructed the butler, then went out to answer the call. Marcus Taylor, it's me, Daniel Clark. I've already cut ties with Grace Taylor. When will you let me go? Daniel Clark's panicked voice came from the other end of the phone. Daniel Clark, this is on you. This is your retribution, I said, then hung up the phone. Daniel Clark was arrested. Grace Taylor stormed up to me, making a scene. Is Daniel Clark's arrest you're doing, Marcus Taylor? Grace Taylor demanded. He brought it upon himself. I didn't do anything, I said, my voice unnervingly flat. I've already decided to be a proper Mrs. Taylor. Can't you just let Daniel Clark go? Grace Taylor asked again, tugging at my sleeve. Am I really that worthless in your eyes? Do you think every bad thing concerning Daniel Clark is my fault? Grace Taylor, are you blind? After saying it, I was stunned myself. I rarely raised my voice to Grace Taylor. She was clearly stunned too. After a long silence, it was Daniel Clark who lied to you. He committed a crime before returning to the country, sexual assault of a minor. Otherwise, why would he rush back to the country and shamelessly come looking for you? I took a deep breath, deciding to reveal the truth. She was even more stunned after hearing it. She remained silent for a long time, just staring at me with a blank expression. Grace Taylor, we're getting a divorce. I paused. As for the child you're carrying, that's your decision. I didn't want any more entanglement with her. I had pursued her for so many years, and it had only ended in failure. I had foolishly believed that love would grow over time. I was too naive. The next day, I received divorce papers, but it wasn't the one I had drafted. Grace Taylor had changed the terms. She didn't ask for anything. All she wanted was the marital home we shared when we were first married. She had already signed the signature line. I instructed the butler to have someone pack up all of Grace Taylor's clothes and jewelry and send them to her place. These were all things she liked. A short while later, a friend who knew Grace Taylor called me. Grace Taylor had an abortion. Even after hearing that, my heart still ached slightly. Actually, this was for the best. Starting over wasn't a bad idea either. Standing by the office's floor-to-ceiling window, I looked outside. The sky was perfectly clear.